These are true stories from those special individuals who got their third eye awakened. They see what most cannot: spirits, shadows, and hidden truth in the darkness. This is Dark Leaves Whisper, where those who have come back speak in whispers. If you dare to listen, subscribe and turn on notifications. Story 1: The River Took Me. I was 16 when I drowned. It was a summer afternoon in Fresno, hot and bright, and I had jumped into the San Joaquin River with a group of friends from school. We had been skipping rocks, daring each other to jump from the old railroad bridge, laughing loud like we had nothing in the world to fear. When I jumped, the water hit me like a wall. Cold, wild, stronger than any current I had known before. I tried to swim, tried to reach the surface, but something yanked at my leg like invisible fingers and pulled me deeper. I remember the panic. My lungs screamed. I fought until everything went black. There was no pain, only silence. Time stopped. I remember a moment of peace, like my mind let go of the panic and accept the dark. Then I was somewhere else entirely. I stood in a forest I didn't recognize. The trees were enormous, blackened, their leaves like ash, yet they glowed faintly as if lit from within. The sky was dark violet, and the wind whispered words I couldn't quite make out, though I understood them. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't hallucinating. I was dead. The forest whispered truths. They told me about people I hadn't met yet, about my friend's grandmother, who would pass away in 3 weeks, about a child I'd meet years later, who would carry a spirit in her shadow. I didn't know how I knew these things, but they came like memories. One voice, deeper and more commanding than the rest, said, "You are not done. Your eye has opened. Use it." I woke up on the shore, coughing and gasping. Paramedics surrounded me. My friends were crying. They said I'd been underwater for over 6 minutes, pulled out by a stranger who vanished before they could thank him. Since that day, my life has never been the same. I began to see things. First, it was shadows that didn't match their objects. Then colors around people, like auras, but more detailed. I knew when someone was about to die. I saw an old man on my street and knew he would pass in 2 days. I tried to warn his daughter. She thought I was making things up. A week later, I told my grandmother what I was experiencing. She took my face in her hands, looked into my eyes, and said, "It's red now, your right eye. When you were born, I said you had the old gift, but it hadn't opened yet. Now it has." She told me about our bloodline, about the ancestors who had dreams that came true, who saw the spirits of the forest and the lost souls of the rivers. She told me the third eye didn't open for everyone, and it usually came with a price. The price, I've come to understand, is isolation. People are scared of what I know. They don't believe me, or they fear me. I've watched friends pull away. I've had relationships fall apart because I couldn't explain why I knew things I shouldn't. But I keep going because the forest still visits me in dreams. The black leaves still whisper, and now I whisper back. Story 2: Under the Ice. When I was 11, I fell through the ice. It was in Minnesota, mid-January, and the lake behind our cabin had frozen over days earlier. My cousins dared me to walk across it. I was always the smallest, the one they said wouldn't last a minute in the woods. So I did what any stubborn kid would do. I walked right into the middle, stomping like I had something to prove. The crack came fast, sharp like a gunshot. The ice beneath me shattered, and I plunged into darkness. The cold hit my body like 1,000 knives. I gasped and inhaled nothing but icy water. Everything burned. I thrashed, trying to reach the hole I'd fallen through, but it was gone. The surface looked the same everywhere, white and unforgiving. Then the cold disappeared. My body didn't hurt anymore. The panic faded. I was floating in silence. It felt peaceful, familiar even. That's when I saw her. A woman in white standing just beneath the surface, her hair floating around her like ribbons in the current. She had no eyes, just smooth skin where they should have been. But I felt her gaze like fire. She reached out and I felt my body move toward her, like I had no will of my own. But before I could touch her, something grabbed my ankle and yanked me backward. I surfaced in a scream. My uncle had seen me fall and dragged me out with a branch. They said I wasn't breathing for a full minute. I remember vomiting lake water and crying so hard I couldn't breathe. But from that day forward, something was different. I began hearing things, voices under the snow, whispers in the wind. Sometimes I hear my name spoken from empty rooms. One night, I woke up to find frost on the inside of my bedroom windows, spelling out the words, "You belong to us." My parents thought it was trauma. They took me to a therapist, then to a priest, but nothing stopped the dreams. The woman in white standing just under the surface of every lake, every frozen pond I passed. She never spoke, but I knew what she wanted. She had tried to claim me, and I had escaped. She wasn't happy about it. By high school, the visions grew stronger. I could see accidents before they happened, ice cracking before it gave way, trees ready to fall before a storm. I began to understand the whispers. They weren't threats, they were warnings, a language I never learned but somehow remembered. I asked my grandmother, a Hmong shaman in her youth, if she believed in spirits trapped beneath the ice. She didn't blink. She said, "They are not trapped. They are waiting. And now they know your name." She told me that our people would believe in a third eye, one that opens only after death, or a near-death crossing. It's the eye that sees both worlds, the living and the dead. She looked at me and nodded slowly. "Yours is open now. You walked into their realm and came back." It changed my life. I don't go near frozen lakes anymore, but I listen to the whispers. I respect the snow, and sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still see her, waiting beneath the ice, reaching up with pale hands, still trying to finish what she started. I died that day, just long enough to return with sight no child should ever carry. But the third eye doesn't close. It only watches. Story 3. The Car Wreck. I never imagined a simple drive home would change my entire life. The night was thick with rain, the kind that turns roads into rivers and blurs the world into a haze of headlights and shadows. I had just left my grandmother's house, carrying her quiet wisdom with me, a wisdom wrapped in stories about ancestors, spirits, and the veil between worlds. She often told me that those who ignore the unseen risk losing their way, but I had always brushed it off as superstition. That night, as I navigated the winding road, flanked by tall, silent trees, I felt an uneasy stillness. The forest seemed alive, not with birds or animals, but with something older and more watchful. A cold breath seemed to whisper through the leaves, reminding me of my grandmother's words. The spirits are always near. They watch and wait. My tires suddenly lost their grip on the slick asphalt. My car fishtailed, spinning out of control. The world tilted and fractured like broken glass. I remember the scream of metal and the crack of impact, before everything went utterly black. When I came to, I was no longer inside my body. I hovered silently above the mangled wreckage, looking down at myself, broken, still, lifeless. Panic should have seized me, but instead, I felt a strange calm, as if I had stepped out of time. Then, a figure appeared beside me, a shadow draped in darkness, yet with eyes that glowed softly, like embers glowing through smoke. This was no ordinary spirit. This was a guide, the one who waits at the crossroads of life and death. Without a word, the figure communicated a simple truth. My time was not yet over. There were paths I had to walk before crossing fully to the other side. Suddenly, memories flooded me. Snippets of my past, childhood moments filled with laughter and pain. But more than memories, I felt a deep stirring inside me, a door unlocking. It was the opening of my third eye, the ancient gift my grandmother spoke of, passed down through generations, rarely awakened without the harsh price of crossing death's threshold. I tried to return to my body, to scream for help, but the guide's silent command held me back. Not yet, it seemed to say. You must see what others cannot. You must learn. Then the forest whispered again, the silent language of spirits. I saw threads of light connecting me to those I loved, to ancestors whose faces I had never known, but whose presence was etched into my blood. I saw shadows gathering at the edges of the world, some gentle, some restless, some hungry for the living attention. When I finally gasped and blinked my eyes open, I was back in the ambulance. Paramedics worked frantically to save me. I was broken, bones shattered, bruises blossomed, but my mind was sharp as a blade. I saw the spirits hovering near the paramedics, their faces full of silent prayers. I felt the sorrow and hope of my family waiting outside, bound to me by threads that even death could not sever. Doctors said I was lucky to live, but I knew better. It was not luck. It was a second chance granted by the world beyond, the realm where spirits dwell and secrets lie hidden. In the days that followed, my vision changed. I noticed things others could not see, flickers of shadow that move independently, colors radiating from people's bodies, warm gold for kindness, cold blue for sorrow, flickering red for anger. I heard voices on the wind, whispers that carry warnings, stories, and forgotten truths. The guide from the other side visited me in dreams, urging me to open my heart and mind to what lay beyond ordinary sight. The third eye did not close when I returned to the living. It remained open, a window between worlds. But this gift came with a price. I became isolated, trapped between realities. Friends pulled away, afraid of what they could not understand. Loved ones treated my visions as madness or delusion. Yet, I knew the spirit's truth was real. At night, I sit by my window, feeling the presence of my ancestors watching over me. Their voices are quiet but persistent, reminding me that my path is not just for me, but for those who came before and those who will follow. The car wreck was not the end, it was a beginning, a doorway to a new life where I see with the third eye, live between shadows, and carry the weight of the unseen. And so, I walk forward, guided by a light only I can see, forever changed by death, and reborn with sight that pierces the veil. Story 4: The Gift Unseen. I was born different, though I didn't know it at first. My grandfather told me once, when I was too young to understand, that I carried a gift, a sight beyond sight, a connection to things others could not see. But it was just words back then, stories that floated around the house like whispers. I didn't believe it. Neither did anyone else. My grandfather was a man of quiet power. He spoke softly, but when he talked about spirits and the unseen, people listened, or so I thought. He told me I was special, that the blood of shamans ran through our family, and that one day I would see the world as he did, between the worlds, beyond the veil. I smiled and nodded, too young to grasp the weight of his words. Years passed, and I buried that part of myself under the noise of ordinary life. I went to school, made friends, and kept my grandfather's stories locked away like old treasures I didn't know how to open. The gift seemed like a fairy tale, something distant and unreal. Then, the day came when my grandfather died. His funeral was filled with sorrow and tradition. People gathered from far and wide, speaking and honoring the man who had been their guide in the spirit world. I stood among them, feeling the heavy silence of loss. But that's when it happened. In the midst of the crowd, I saw him, my grandfather standing there, alive and watching. His eyes met mine with an urgency I could not explain. I opened my mouth to tell everyone, to warn them that he was still here, but my voice caught in my throat. No one else saw him. No one else believed me. I tried to speak, to share what I saw, but my words fell on deaf ears. They thought I was grief-stricken, imagining things in my sorrow. I was dismissed, laughed at quietly, or gently told to be strong and accept his passing. That moment broke something inside me. How could I carry this secret, this truth, and have no one to share it with? The gift my grandfather had spoken of was real, but it was a burden no one wanted to acknowledge. Time moved on. I grew older, moved away from home, and tried to live a normal life. I did not become a shaman. I did not follow the path laid before me by my grandfather. Instead, I buried my sight deeper, afraid to see what others could not, and unwilling to be alone in the world of spirits. But the gift never left me. In quiet moments, I see shadows flicker at the edge of my vision. I hear whispers in empty rooms and feel cold touches when no one is near. And every time I see these things, these spirits, these glimpses of the other world, it takes a toll on me. My head pounds, nausea rises, and my body aches like I'm falling apart from the inside. The gift comes with a price, one that I have learned to bear in silence. Sometimes I wake from dreams where my grandfather calls me, urging me to remember who I am. I am not a shaman. I have not embraced the path, but I carry the third eye he gave me, a constant reminder that some truths lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be seen. The world moves too fast for most to notice the thin veil between life and death, but I live with one foot on each side. And though no one believes the gift I carry, it shapes every step I take. Sometimes I wonder what might have been if I had listened, if I had chosen to walk the path my grandfather saw for me. But the silence that met my voice at his funeral taught me one thing. Gifts like mine are not always welcome in a world that fears what it cannot see. Still, I watch, I listen, and when the dead speak, I am the one who hears. Story 5. Waiting Beyond Time. I still remember the quiet village where I was born, nestled among the rolling green hills and winding rivers of Laos. Life there moved slowly, marked by the rhythm of seasons, the hum of cicadas, and the faint scent of jasmine that drifted on the evening breeze. It was in this small world that I met her, the girl I loved more than anything else. From the moment our eyes met, everything else seemed to fade away. Her smile was like sunlight, breaking through clouds, and her laughter filled the spaces in my heart I never knew were empty. We dreamed of a future together, simple, honest, and full of love. But our love was not enough. Our families did not approve. Their voices were heavy with tradition and pride, their hearts closed tight against our wishes. To them, we were too young, too reckless, and too different. They forbade us from marrying, from being together openly. The weight of their rejection pressed down on us like a dark cloud, relentless and suffocating. We were desperate, two souls burning in a cage with no key. In whispered conversations beneath the moonlight, we spoke of escape, of freedom beyond this life. We sought death together. We believed that if we could leave this world hand in hand, nothing could ever tear us apart again. But fate was cruel and unyielding. She died, alone. The night we both took herbs, I held her hand as she held mine. The world grew cold, silent, as if it mourned with me. The village tried to save her, but it was too late. She was gone. I was left behind, the living prisoner of a love that death had not softened, only hardened. Years stretched ahead like a long, empty road. I moved far from the village, crossing oceans and continents until I landed in the United States. There, I married a wonderful woman, built a home, and raised children who are the light of my life. I found happiness, a kind of peace I thought I would never know. Yet, some part of me remains forever anchored to that distant village. And the girl who loved me first, she still comes to me, not with anger or bitterness, but as a quiet presence, a whisper in the wind, a fleeting shadow in the corner of my eye, a gentle warmth on cold nights. She visits during moments when the world is still, when the veil between life and death thins, just enough for her to reach me. I see her eyes filled with the same love and longing I carry, meet mine across the divide. She does not disturb my life. She does not haunt me with sorrow. Instead, she reminds me, patiently and gently, that she is waiting, waiting for the day when my time will come, when we can be together again, beyond all pain and separation. Living with her presence is both a blessing and a burden. Some nights I tell my wife about these visits. She listens with a calm understanding, never judgment, never fear. She knows that love does not always fit into neat, simple stories. My children have never seen her, but I know she watches over them too, a silent guardian born of a love that defied death itself. I am happy now. My family is my world. They are my present, my future. But the part of me that loved that girl in Laos, that part still listens when the dark leaves whisper her name in the quiet of night. She waits. And I know when the time comes I will find her again. Not as a ghost or a memory, but as the love that once was and will always be. Eternal, unbroken, and beyond the reach of time. Thank you for listening to Dark Leaves Whisper. If these stories stir something within you, remember, they come from those caught between worlds, seeing what we cannot. Subscribe and turn on notifications to hear more whispers from beyond the veil. Until next time, keep your eyes open, because sometimes the unseen is closer than you think.